Welcome to the Sisterhood Exposé channel. Imagine this. You're working late, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and you're just trying to do a good job. The world outside is quiet, but inside your mind is racing with deadlines and expectations. You're not looking for trouble, but one day, trouble finds you. And suddenly, everything you thought you knew about your workplace shifts. That's exactly what happened to Maya. Maya wasn't naive. She'd spent 8 years climbing the ladder, learning the unspoken rules, navigating office politics. She'd built a reputation for being reliable, for getting things done, for being the person others could count on. She knew when to speak up and when to stay quiet. But she also knew the cost of silence. But sometimes you just can't ignore what's right in front of you. The weight of what you know becomes impossible to carry alone. One afternoon, Maya stumbled on an email that wasn't meant for her. It was buried deep in a project folder, almost as if someone hoped no one would ever find it. Her heart pounded as she read line after line, but she did, and what she read made her stomach drop. Her department head was green-lighting fake reports for a huge client. The betrayal felt personal, like a crack in the foundation of everything she believed about her company. Not a mistake, not a misunderstanding, straight-up fraud. The realization left her numb, then angry, then afraid. She sat with it overnight, ran through every scenario in her head. What if she said nothing? What if she spoke up? The fear of losing everything she'd worked for pressed in on her, but so did the fear of becoming complicit. But in the end, she did what most of us hope we'd do. She reported it, quietly, by the book. No drama, no headlines. Her hands shook as she filled out the report, but her resolve was steady. She followed the steps in the handbook and went straight to HR. She hoped for protection, for justice, for the right thing to be done. They told her she was brave. They thanked her for her integrity. For a brief moment, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she'd done the right thing after all. For a moment, Maya believed she was safe. She allowed herself to exhale, to imagine a future where honesty was rewarded. But then, things started happening. The air in the office changed. Conversations stopped when she entered the room. Her next performance review, which she'd expected to be glowing, was suddenly full of vague criticisms. She felt blindsided, her confidence shaken. She was taken off the project she'd been leading for months. Her responsibilities shrank, her voice was no longer welcome. And before she knew it, she was let go. They called it restructuring, but Maya knew better. The sense of betrayal cut deeper than the loss of her job. At first, Maya didn't panic. She had a solid reputation, years of experience, and glowing references. Well, she thought she did. She told herself she'd land on her feet. She polished her resume and sent out applications. Each one was a lifeline, a hope for a fresh start. But the calls never came. No interviews, no emails, except the "we'll keep your resume on file" kind. The silence was deafening. Even her old work friends stopped answering her messages. The isolation grew, and with it, a gnawing sense of doubt. Eventually, a recruiter leveled with her. Off the record. "Your name's out there," he said. The words stung, confirming her worst fears. "You're seen as a problem, someone who can't be trusted to keep quiet." Not because she wasn't good at her job. Her achievements still shone on her resume, but now they felt like relics from another life. Not because she'd done anything wrong, but because she'd done what was right, but because she'd spoken up. The loneliness was overwhelming. She questioned her choices, replayed every moment, wondering if she could have done something differently. That's how it works in a lot of industries. People whisper, connections matter, and if you're labeled as someone who rocks the boat, you're out. There's no official blacklist, just an invisible one. The doors that once opened easily now stayed firmly shut, and once you're on it, doors close. The world feels smaller, colder. Maya could have fought back. She looked into legal options, but the process would take years. And by then, her career was already in shambles. The thought of reliving the trauma in court was almost too much to bear. She took temp jobs, pieced together freelance gigs, and tried to move on. Each new role was a reminder of what she'd lost, but also of her resilience. But the story followed her. Rumors spread, and sometimes she'd catch her name in conversations or see a knowing glance. People didn't want to talk about it. The silence was a wall she couldn't break through. They didn't want to get involved. The isolation became a daily companion, and Maya struggled with anxiety and self-doubt. That's the hardest thing about whistleblowing, the silence. It's not just the loss of a job, but the loss of community, of belonging. It doesn't just protect the people at the top, It sends a message to everyone else. Speak up, and you'll pay the price. If you speak up, you might end up like Maya, sidelined, isolated, forgotten. There were days when Maya wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. But here's the thing, Maya's story didn't end there. In her darkest moments, she found unexpected strength. Every day, women find themselves in similar situations. Some reached out to Maya, sharing their own stories of speaking up and facing consequences. They do the right thing and pay a price no one warns them about. It's not fair, but in their shared experiences, Maya found a new sense of purpose. But it is real. Maya began to write about her journey, connecting with advocacy groups and supporting others who felt alone. So if you've ever been in Maya's shoes, or you know someone who has, I want you to know, you're not alone. Speaking truth to power takes courage, and it takes a toll. But it also forges resilience, and sometimes, new communities. But it also plants a seed. Maya's story inspired others to come forward, to demand better protections, to believe that change is possible. Change only happens when people are brave enough to break the silence. Maya's courage became a catalyst, a quiet revolution in her industry. If you believe we should protect those who do the right thing, share this story, like, subscribe, and let's keep talking about what it really means to stand up for what's right. Because every voice matters and every act of courage lights the way for someone else.